Okay, so I need to tell you about the moment Paris stopped. Not slowed down. Not paused. Stopped. Because somewhere between a practice session and a qualifying match at Roland Garros, one of the most famous musicians on the planet stood up in front of thousands of people, grabbed a microphone, and sang a song he had written specifically for a 20-year-old girl from Manila who has never won a single match at this tournament. And when it was over, she couldn't speak. Not because she was shy, not because she wasn't prepared, but because some moments are simply too big for words, and this was one of them. I've been covering tennis for a long time. I've seen Wimbledon finals that went 5 sets. I've seen players collapse on the court from exhaustion and still crawl back to win. I've seen retirements that made grown men cry in the stands. But I have never, not once, seen anything quite like what happened on court Susan Lenglen last week, and I don't think I ever will again. So let me take you back to Paris, because you need to understand the full picture to really feel the weight of this moment. Roland Garros in the days before the main draw is a strange, electric kind of place. The tournament hadn't officially started yet. The main draw was still a couple of days away, scheduled to begin on May 24th, but the grounds were already alive. Qualifiers were being played on the outer courts. Players were deep in their final practice blocks, dialing in their footwork on that red clay, adjusting to the slower bounce, the heavier ball, the particular way the court eats your legs if you're not careful. Fans who had travelled early were wandering the grounds, snapping photos, watching through the fences, soaking up that unmistakable Roland Garros atmosphere. And the tournament organisers, to keep the energy going between all of that, had arranged a series of small musical performances. Local artists, a marching band, the kind of light, pleasant entertainment that fills the gaps and keeps people smiling. Nobody was expecting anything extraordinary. Nobody was expecting David Guetta. Now, if you don't know who David Guetta is, let me paint the picture for you quickly. 58 years old, born and raised in Paris, one of the most successful DJs and music producers the world has ever produced. He has headlined Tomorrowland. He has headlined Ultra Music Festival. He has performed in front of hundreds of thousands of people at a time, in stadiums, on beaches, in arenas across every continent. His collaborations with artists like Sia, Rihanna, and Nicki Minaj have topped charts in dozens of countries. The man is a legend in the truest sense of the word. And he was not on the official schedule that day. His appearance was a surprise, arranged personally by tournament director Amelia Morsmo, who had apparently told Guetta about Alex and what she had come to mean to people, not just in the Philippines, but across the entire tennis world. And according to Morsmo, the moment Guetta heard the story, he didn't hesitate. He said he wanted to come. So word started spreading. Through the grounds the way word only spreads when something genuinely exciting is happening. Quietly at first, then faster and faster. Within minutes, the sparse crowd that had been sitting on court Susan Lenglen started filling up. Within an hour, thousands of people had abandoned the practice courts and come to see what was going on. And then Guetta took his place behind the decks, and the crowd went absolutely wild. He played some of his biggest records. Titanium, When Love Takes Over, Memories. The energy was everything you'd expect from a man who has spent decades making entire stadiums move in unison. People were dancing. Phones were in the air. It felt like a festival had broken out in the middle of a tennis tournament. And then he stopped the music. Just like that, the beat dropped away. The crowd noise faded. And Guetta leaned into the microphone and said something that nobody in that stadium was prepared for. He said there was someone there that day who had inspired him. Someone who didn't even know he existed. Someone from a country of over 110 million people who had found a hero in a girl with a tennis racket and a dream. And the cameras, almost instinctively, found her. Alex, sitting in the player's box with her mother and her coaches, wearing that expression she always has, that quiet focus, that stillness. And then the stillness broke, because when she realized what was happening, her hand flew straight to her mouth. What came next was not a remix. It was not a chart hit. It was not anything that had ever been released or performed before that moment. David Guetta had written an original song. For her. Specifically for her. Just think about that for a second. A man who has written music for Rihanna, who has performed for 500,000 people at a time, sat down and wrote something brand new for a 20-year-old tennis player from Manila. The song was called Laban. And if you don't know, Laban is a Filipino word. It means fight. It means to keep going when everything is telling you to stop. It is the word that Filipino fans have been chanting for Alex at every tournament she has played, in Rome, in Madrid, and now here in Paris. The music started softly. A piano melody, simple and clean, drifting across the court like something fragile and precious. And the crowd, which had been dancing and bouncing moments before, went completely silent. Every flag stopped moving. Every chant faded. Guetta closed his eyes and he began to sing. The lyrics talked about carrying the weight of a nation, about refusing to break, about a girl who runs to every line, fills every space, leaves everything on the court. They talked about the flags in the stands and the tears on people's faces. And then came the chorus, and the chorus was the part that broke everyone. Laban, Alex, Laban, they're calling your name. From Rome to Paris, you're lighting the flame. Laban, Alex, Laban, don't ever look down. The Philippines is with you wherever you're bound. It wasn't a polished studio performance. There were no backing tracks, no production tricks, no elaborate light show. It was a man with a microphone and a piano, standing on a tennis court in Paris, pouring genuine emotion into a tribute for someone he had never even met. And that rawness, that total absence of artifice, was exactly what made it impossible to watch without feeling something shift inside your chest. In the player's box, Alex's mother Riza had tears streaming down her face. Her coaches sat in absolute silence. And Alex herself stayed frozen with her hand over her mouth, her shoulders beginning to shake. The second verse went even deeper. It talked about people telling her she was too small, that she couldn't do it. About how she stood on the clay and answered every single doubt, with her racket instead of her words. About how no trophy, no title, no ranking could ever measure what she had already given to the people who love her. And when the chorus came back around for the final time, Guetta's voice rose and filled every corner of that stadium, and the crowd that had been silent began to sing along, even though they were hearing the song for the very first time in their lives. That is what music does when it's real. You don't need to have heard it before. You just feel it, and you follow. When the last note faded, and the piano went quiet, the silence lasted about half a second. And then the crowd erupted, not with the wild energy of a festival, with something heavier and warmer than that. Applause that came from somewhere deep. And from the front row, a chant started, slow at first, then growing until it filled the entire stadium. Laban Alex. Laban Alex. Guetta stepped back from the microphone, and you could see it in his face, the emotion he hadn't quite expected to feel himself. He looked toward the player's box, and he said, "That was for you, and for every Filipino who has ever felt far from home. You're not alone. You've never been alone." And Alex stood up. She walked to the edge of the player's box, and looked out at the crowd. At the Philippine flags. At the faces of the diaspora, who had come from across Europe just to be there. At this man on the stage, who had just done something completely extraordinary, for no reason other than that it felt right. She opened her mouth. She closed it. She shook her head slowly, and this small, overwhelmed smile crossed her face. And then she said, very quietly, barely audible even through the microphones nearby, "I'm sorry. I don't have words. I don't have the words for this." And the crowd didn't groan. They didn't get impatient. They cheered louder than before. Someone shouted that it was okay. Someone else shouted that they loved her anyway. And Guetta raised his hand from the stage and said, "You don't need words. Just keep fighting. That's all we ask." She nodded. She pressed her hand to her heart. She looked at the crowd one last time. And then she sat back down. The whole thing lasted less than a minute. But that minute was watched by 50 million people within the next 24 hours. 50 million. The clips went everywhere. TikTok, Instagram, YouTube, X. Every platform. Every language. Comment sections filled with people writing that they had watched it 10 times and cried every single time. People who had never watched a tennis match in their lives were suddenly asking who Alex was and how they could watch her play. The WTA, still processing everything that had been happening around Alex's story, issued a public statement calling the moment a testament to the power of sport to transcend borders. Philippine media ran front-page stories. French media, notably Le Parisien, pointed out something that I think is worth sitting with. They wrote that in an era of manufactured celebrity moments, what Guetta offered was something genuinely rare. He didn't perform a greatest hit. He wrote something new for a girl from Manila who has never even won a match at Roland Garros. Think about what that says. Think about what kind of impact you have to have on the world for that to be the thing someone chooses to do. After the crowd had gone and the cameras had stopped rolling and Guetta had quietly slipped back into the Parisian afternoon, Alex stayed in the player's box for a while longer, just sitting, her mother beside her, holding her hand. Her coaches giving her the space she needed. The stadium empty now. The flags folded. The echoes fading. And after a long silence, she turned to her mother and said, "Mama, did that really happen?" And Riza smiled through tears and said yes. It really happened. And Alex shook her head slowly and said something that I think explains everything about why people love her the way they do. She said she didn't understand it. She said she hadn't won anything. She hadn't proven herself, not really. And her mother looked at her and told her that proving yourself was never only about trophies. That what people saw in her was her heart, her fight, the way she refuses to go down. And Alex was quiet for a long moment. Then she stood up and walked to the edge of the player's box and looked out at the empty red clay of Court Susan Lenglen, at the sky above Paris turning gold in the afternoon light. And she made a promise. Not to the cameras, not to the journalists, to herself, and to the empty seats around her. She said she was going to win. And then she paused and clarified. Not the tournament, maybe. Not a trophy. But something. She was going to win their belief. She was going to win their hearts. She was going to make them proud. And she was going to carry them with her, every single point, every single game, every single match. The French Open hadn't started yet. The draw hadn't even been made. But right there, in the quiet of an empty stadium in Paris, a 20-year-old from Manila had already decided what kind of player she was going to be. Not the kind defined by rankings or results. The kind defined by what she gives, every time she steps on that court, regardless of the outcome. The kind that makes a crowd fall silent when a DJ plays a song no one has ever heard before. Because somehow, every single person in that stadium already knows exactly what it means. The matches are coming. The pressure is real. The expectations are enormous. But if you've been following this story, you already know that pressure and Alex have a complicated relationship. She doesn't shrink from it. She seems to grow into it. And as she walked out of Roland Garros that evening, the song still playing somewhere in the back of her mind, the flag still fluttering in her memory, one thing felt absolutely certain. When she walks out onto Philippe Chatrier for her first match, and the crowd starts chanting, and the Philippine flags start waving, she is not going to be thinking about winning a trophy. She is going to be thinking about that promise. And if you've learned anything from watching her, you know she does not make promises she doesn't intend to keep.